version, that of the Old Irish fled brickrend. But in no other version is the incident coupled with that of a temptation and testing of the hero's honor and chastity, such as meets us here. At first sight, one is inclined to assign the episode of the Lady of the Castle to the class of stories of which the oldest version is preserved in biblical record, the story of Joseph and Potiphar's wife, a motif not unseldom employed by medieval writers, and which notably occurs in what we may call the Lanfal group of stories. But there are certain points which may make us hesitate as to whether, in its first conception, the tale was really one of this class. It must be noted that here the lady is acting throughout with the knowledge and consent of the husband, an important point of difference. In the second place, it is very doubtful whether her entire attitude was not a ruse. From the Green Knight's words to Gawain when he finally reveals himself, "I wot we shall soon make peace with my wife, who was thy bitter enemy," her conduct hardly seems to have been prompted by real passion. In my studies on the legend of Sir Gawain, already referred to, I have suggested that the character of the lady here is, perhaps, a reminiscence of that of the Queen of the Magic Castle or Isle, daughter or niece of an enchanter, who at an early stage of Gawain's story was undoubtedly his love. I think it not impossible that she was an integral part of the tale as first told, and her role here was determined by that which she originally played. In most versions of the story she has dropped out altogether. It is of course possible that, there being but a confused reminiscence of the original tale, her share may have been modified by the influence of the Lanfal group, but I should prefer to explain the episode on the whole as a somewhat distorted survival of an original feature. But in any case, we may be thankful for this, that the author of the most important English metrical romance dealing with Arthurian legend faithfully adheres to the original conception of Gawain's character, as drawn before the monkish lovers of edification laid their ruthless hands on the legend, and turned the model of knightly virtues and courtesy into a mere vulgar libertine. Brave, chivalrous, loyally faithful to his plighted word, scrupulously heedful of his own and others' honor, Gawain stands before us in this poem. We take up Malory or Tennyson, and in spite of their charm of style, in spite of the halo of religious mysticism in which they have striven to enwrap their characters, we lay them down with a feeling of dissatisfaction. How did the Gawain of their imagination, this empty-headed, empty-hearted worldling, cruel murderer and treacherous friend, ever come to be the typical English hero? For such Gawain certainly was, even more than Arthur himself. Then we turn back to these faded pages and read the quaintly earnest words in which the old writer reveals the hidden meaning of that mystic symbol, the pentangle, and vindicates Gawain's title to claim it as his badge. And we smile, perhaps, but we cease to wonder at the widespread popularity of King Arthur's famous nephew, or at the immense body of romance that claims him as its hero. Scholars know all this, of course. They can read the poem for themselves in its original rough and intricate phraseology. Perhaps they will be shocked at an attempt to handle it in simpler form, but this little book is not for them. And if, to those to whom the tale would otherwise be a sealed treasure, these pages bring some new knowledge of the way in which our forefathers looked on the characters of the Arthurian legend, the tales they told of them, unconsciously betraying the while how they themselves lived and thought and spoke, if by that means they gain a keener appreciation of our national heroes, a wider knowledge of our national literature, then the spirit of the long-dead poet will doubtless not be the slowest to pardon my handling of what was his masterpiece, as it is, in M. Gaston Paris' words, the jewel of medieval literature. Bournemouth, June 1898. End of preface. Section 1. After the siege and the assault of Troy, when that burg was destroyed and burnt to ashes, and the traitor slain for his treason, the noble Aeneas and his kin sailed forth to become princes and patrons of well-nigh all the western isles. Thus Romulus built Rome, and gave to the city his known name, which it bears even to this day, and Tisius turned him to Tusculum.